Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, June 11th, 2025, and we're here this afternoon for a work session for Community Justice Alternatives Updates and Restorative Justice Presentation. I'm Kristen Stevens, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners. With me are my fellow commissioners, Commissioner John Cafalas and Commissioner Jody Shattuck McNally. We also have our county manager with us, and we have a lot of people in the room, but I'm going to turn things over to Emily Humphrey, Director of Community Justice Alternatives, to get us started this afternoon. So welcome, everyone.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for having us. Again, for those that are listening in, my name is Emily Humphrey, and I'm the Director of Community Justice Alternatives. I'm very pleased today that we are going to be talking with our CJA staff on restorative practices or restorative justice. Prior to getting into the presentation, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping from previous things since our last Commissioner's presentation. I wanted to update you on our warrant clearance event. Believe it or not, this is our 6th warrant clearance event that we've had. And if you, just as a refresher, we had our warrant clearance event for individuals who have outstanding warrants, who are able to not turn themselves in, but to go to a court setting, clear their warrants and their cases, and hopefully have resolutions without the fear of being placed under arrest. The first 4 we did, 2 were in Fort Collins and 2 were in Loveland. 1 was at the library, 1 was at a church, and then 2 were at the Peridot building, which is a Larimer County building in Loveland. After we did those 4, people really understood what we were doing and that it was a safe opportunity to resolve their warrants as well as be a part of the community fair. So in the fall, we did our 5th one at the Justice Center at 201 LaPorte Avenue, and it was very, very successful. So in April, specifically April 5th of this year, we had our 6th warrant clearance event at the Loveland Police and Courts. And again, it was a very successful opportunity for folks to come in and clear their warrants and also go through our community resource fair. Here's a couple of pictures of folks that were there from our resource fair helping out. We had our surveys taken. We'll talk about that in a second, but here's just an example. Individuals said, this is an awesome program, a chance to make past mistakes right, as well as think this program is amazing. It will help a lot of families, and it absolutely did. This year, we probably had 5 or 6 individuals that came in that were Spanish-speaking only, had the use of an interpreter, and were able to resolve their cases, which was really nice to see. We also had new ideas at our community resource fair. We actually had clothing donations this time that we didn't have in the past, so that was very a good addition as well. Just as an example, we also have Rosie, who did all of our surveys, but she had 2 helpers this year. So there was 3 of them this year, and I can tell you no one walked away without completing a survey. So they're really good. We need to hire them full-time. But just to give you an idea of some stories of success stories, we had a woman fly in from Washington. She has a 2 and an 8-year-old. She's now sober and clean. She was able to clear her warrant, and now she can start moving forward to try to obtain custody of her eldest child. So very good success story there. There was also a man with a serious heart condition and had lots of blood clots, and he was able to get his case dismissed, go back to Iowa so his family could properly take care of him. So those are just some examples of things that came forward. But what's important, and I'm going to go back, is we cleared 108 warrants. About 65 individuals walked through that door to clear their warrants. We had to turn about 12 people away because they did not qualify based on our criteria. We had much more individuals coming through in the community resource part of it and really getting some access to services. The other thing that's really important is the networking. There's a lot of incredible people, and I used to have to call people and say, please come and please be a part of it, and now I have to turn people away because there's so many people that want to have a booth at the resource fair. So very exciting about that. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Any questions? No? Commissioner Cafalas?
No questions, although I have to comment that of the 3 volunteers, it did get a bit competitive to determine who was in charge. So that was interesting to observe.
It was. And what was interesting is that Rosie, who is the leader of this, was a year younger than the other one. And so the other one kind of took control, and at times Rosie allowed that to happen. So it was good.
It was good.
I did not realize they went to daycare together. Pardon?
The power dynamics.
Exactly.
At any age, right?
Exactly.
And the next one will be?
The next one is going to be about 6 months from now in the fall. So we don't have a new date slated yet. There is also a talk, they're having one in June, well, they already had it, which was a statewide warrant clearance event. We did not participate this time. In order for it to be beneficial for us, we need to have our partners in Weld County and Boulder, and not all of them were involved in that, so we may be on a statewide warrant clearance event in the future. The next thing before we get to our actual presentation, I just wanted to update you on the sequential intercept mapping workshop that we've been talking about for a very, very long time. This is part of our strategic plan, Quality of Life Goal 2. We were able to obtain the dollars to bring the workshop in, and it actually happened. It happened on April 29th and 30th. If you can see, this was a well-attended event. We had about 60 individuals from varieties of nonprofits and government sector, both criminal and behavioral health. Very, very well attended, where we had facilitators from Washington, D.C., or the facilitators were from Utah and Missouri, but it was scheduled by the Washington, D.C. folks to really get together and really map out the resources we have in Larimer County for both behavioral health and criminal justice, and how can we help individuals to determine our gaps and our opportunities. As an example of who came, this is just a tiny list of all the different agencies that were represented. We would have liked to have more, but we just didn't have the space, and we didn't have the facilitation to have that many people beyond what we already had. Go ahead.
If I might, Madam Chair. I see you have the ROAC on there. Who was, did you ask the ROAC, whether voting members or who was there from the ROAC? Because I don't think we were aware of that.
Okay, so ROAC was invited, so there was a representative from there. I cannot tell you which one because there was about 60 people there, so
I recognize some people in the picture, so I'm not sure if we had, I don't know if we had, I'm just trying to figure out who got the email and who said it, because I'm on ROAC, and I don't think we were aware that we could have
Okay.
participated. So.
Well, and what we had done is we had invited certain organizations, and they were only allowed to bring one person.
Yeah, and you have not a voting member there, so I'm just curious about that.
And this was not for any kind of decision-making. This was just for input and
Okay.
information coming forward. So, again, like when we chose a housing entity, we could only choose a few because there's so many out there. So we had to have a good representation of individuals that understood the entire community. So it was a good opportunity to just get information from a variety of resources. And what I will tell you, what I've learned from this, is that the group was very excited to continue their work. So when we get the report out, we'll get a report out within a month, I believe, month or 6 weeks. My goal is to come to the next commissioner presentation and report back on what they decided were our gaps and opportunities. And then we're getting the group back together, and we're adding more to the group when that happens, so that we can really move forward on those gaps and opportunities.
That's great. I would love it if we could get that report sent to the ROAC, because, this would help inform our decision-making, because we're trying to fill in some gaps with putting that money to good use for recovery, and so that would be great to know that
Yep.
information. So.
Once we get the report out, we will send it out, Larimer County-wide, so there'll be many opportunities for folks to look at that. And then we'll start having action plans moving forward on how to address those gaps that we see.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kafalis, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to go back to the previous topic really quickly.
Sure.
I just thought of a question, and that is, are other jurisdictions learning from our experience regarding warrant clearance events? Are other jurisdictions doing that?
Yes, in fact, there's many different warrant clearance events across the state. All of them are a little different from one another. We mirrored ours after Jefferson County, so they were one of the first ones to do it, and then we followed suit. But it was interesting, when I went on the statewide meeting, a lot of them do it differently. Some were doing it only virtually, which was interesting. But yes, so what started out as 2 or 3 jurisdictions has now probably done 10 or 12 different jurisdictions are doing it.
Thank you kindly.
You bet.
Thank you. I think we're ready to keep moving.
Okay, thanks. Now, I know when we talk about, when we have our presentations, we always put up our mission and vision, but today is really important, and I want to highlight it a little bit because it goes right into restorative practices. Looking at our mission, Community Justice Alternatives prioritizes community safety and reduced recidivism by providing accountability, resources, and support to justice-involved individuals. When you hear staff talk today about restorative practices, we are living what our mission is. We are really focusing on the community to make them safer, holding our folks accountable, but giving a different way, a different lens of looking at where they're at and why they're there. And so I wanted to point that out along with our vision. And our vision is CJA envisions a safer community by creating an inclusive culture of highly motivated and well-trained staff who utilize innovative practices and cost-effective and improve the lives and outcomes for justice-involved individuals. And when we talk about Larimer County, we talk about the innovation that we have and what we've done in all of our departments. But when it comes to criminal justice, I do believe that we're on the cutting edge, and we really do look towards innovative practices. And the folks in front of me that are going to talk today asked to bring this program to CJA, and they've done an incredible job getting trained and educated, and now are implementing it, not only with the staff, with the clients, a combination of both, and just really the community as a whole. So I just wanted to point out that they're living in the mission and the vision that we have here at CJA with this restorative practices. And again, I'm not going to get into the core values because I'm not going to steal their thunder, because they're going to talk about the core values and how it's incorporated into restorative justice practices. But I want to turn this over to the folks that are really going to have a great presentation today on restorative practices. Today we have incredible staff that I'd like to introduce. We have Alex Danielson to my right, and she is a community justice supervisor who's been with us for over 13 years, and I think you all know her quite well. We also have Amanda Cusero, who's down on the end. She's also a community justice case specialist, and she's been with us for 2 years. We have Izzy Brunson, who's a community justice case specialist, who's been with us for 3. And Brittany Rose, who's our employment specialist, who's been here for 2 years. And last but not least, Ashley Villanueva, and she's been with us for 4 years. And we're really, really honored to have them here. What they're doing, I think, is really game-changing, not only for the clients that we serve, but for their families and for the community as a whole. So I'm going to turn it over.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Alex Danielson, and we're here today to talk about restorative justice. Before we begin, I just wanted to acknowledge that everyone in this room, everything you hear today, every success, every practice, every strategy, that is on top of all of their already very difficult job duties. So this is something that we have taken on aside from our roles, something that fills our cup, and we're just really passionate about restorative justice and really excited to share that with you guys today. All right, so to get into it, at Community Justice Alternatives, probably change the slide. We believe justice should be more than just punishment. It should focus on healing, accountability, and a stronger community. That's the heart of restorative justice. Restorative justice is about repairing harm caused by wrongdoing or conflict. It helps people take responsibility, make things right, and rebuild relationships. While it's often used in the criminal justice system, CJA, our approach is going to go even further. We use restorative practices, which are everyday actions and conversations that build trust, prevent conflict, and create a healthier community. A simple way to think about it is restorative justice responds to the harm, while restorative practices work to prevent it. At CJA, we're weaving these ideas into everything we do, into our programs, into our culture, and how we're serving the community. Today, we're going to walk you through the history of restorative justice, share key strategies and examples, explain our core ideas, and how they align with the CJA values like Emily talked about. We're going to talk to you about how we began using this approach, and if there's time at the end, we would love to invite you to try out a circle process, which we are going to explain today.
Thank you, Alex. I'm Brittany Rose. I'm just going to walk you through a little bit of the history of restorative justice, and you'll notice in the slide, the upper right, it says harm acknowledgement practices are attributed to Indigenous, North American, and New Zealander tribes, which really just emphasizes that this is not a new concept. We're really taking it back to a more community-based. And restorative justice first gained recognition through the victim offender Reconciliation Program, otherwise known as VORP, which started in Ontario, Canada in 1974. And then it was later adopted in 1978 by a diversion program in Elkhart, Indiana. As it developed throughout the criminal justice system in the United States, this program emphasized dialogue between victims and offender, focusing on accountability and community involvement, which then shifted into a drive to focus on healing victims, rehabilitating offenders, and repairing harm to communities as an alternative to punitive sanctions and incarceration. These programs then built on facilitating agreements that might involve restitution, such as finances or otherwise, or community service, written or communicated apologies with an emphasis on accountability. These programs were effective in removing barriers to communication, such as power differential, and allowed all parties involved to express themselves about the personal impact of the offense. Within this restorative justice practice came then restorative communication circles, which we'll be explaining a lot more in depth a little bit later in the presentation. These structured circles are a way to facilitate dialogue and community involvement in addressing harm. The concept is to assist with decision-making and conflict resolution as an interactive discussion that symbolizes both equality and the collective responsibility of all the stakeholders involved. In many cases today, under the criminal justice lens, restorative circles are used to heal harm through guided conversations, which are caused by severe cases such as sexual assaults, all the way through recognizing harms on the community caused by petty offenses as well.
Sorry. When people think about restorative justice, you might think of a high-impact dialogue. When the person who is harmed sits down with the person who harms them and they have a discussion about how that affected them. So for example, in the Department of Corrections, this might look like somebody who is in prison for the offense of a robbery, and they may have the victim, the person who was involved in the robbery, let's say the shop owner, sit down together in a facilitated conversation, and they have agreed to participate. They sit in a safe, neutral space. It's facilitated, and the person who committed the robbery is going to take accountability for what they did. There's a time to ask questions. The victim, the facilitator can ask, what is it that you need? What can you do to repair the harm that has been caused? And then they'll end that facilitation with an agreement, and that could be an apology letter, that could be restitution, that could be possibly some community service that the person who committed the crime does. And so while these structured conversations are a huge part of restorative justice, restorative practices go well beyond this. And at CJA, we're using these restorative strategies every day. So that's going to include community building circles, which is what we'll talk about today, effective language that expresses feelings and needs, conflict prevention and de-escalation skills, and then restorative questions to promote reflection and accountability. So by using these tools, we help our clients take responsibility, repair harm, and build a healthier, more positive behaviors in our community.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
This is important work, and does it also reduce recidivism? I would imagine that facing someone that you've done wrong to and really owning up and seeing that hurt and dealing with that would maybe make you not want to have to go through that again. Is there some truth to that?
Yeah, there's absolutely truth to that. I don't have specific numbers for you, but even programs like at the City of Fort Collins, they work with juveniles and they do restorative justice programs, and they have seen major progress in recidivism rates, as well as with the Department of Corrections.
Thank you. Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This sparks some questions for me. So this is great to allow, kind of reducing recidivism rates and things. I'm wondering about the victims. How are they chosen? Are they volunteer? And what kind of support are given to them? Because maybe going through this might reopen some trauma, and I'm wondering, maybe not every victim is a suitable candidate for doing this, because it might be re-victimizing, basically. I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Amanda's actually going to talk about the different types of applications in restorative justice. The high impact dialogue is just one of those. So when you have somebody who is in prison, who has done quite a bit more time, who is ready in that process, the victim has had a lot more time to get the help that they need on the outside, it can be very intense. So that is kind of just one of the strategies you use in restorative justice. We're not there yet to do high impact dialogue. And we'll talk about who we have on the team, but we actually have our victims advocates on our restorative justice team. And so that is something we could do in the future, but it would take a lot of work, and we would want to make sure that everyone in the process is ready for that.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amanda. As Alex mentioned, one of the 3 applications is that high impact dialogue. High impact dialogue allows those who have been caused harm to take responsibility and work toward repairing the damage. Sharing, talking, and support circles are especially helpful when addressing sensitive or emotional topics where there's no clear right or wrong answer. For instance, individuals in a community corrections program might participate in a healing circle to talk about the challenges of reintegration, building trust and mutual support among peers. Finally, community accountability involves asking reflective questions like, how have you harmed yourself or your community? And how can we make things right? A person involved in drug-related offenses might reflect on the impact of their actions and assist in community cleanup efforts as a way to give back and rebuild community trust.
Hi, I'm Izzy. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the concepts, and then we'll get into how they apply at CJA. So there are 5 main concepts. We sometimes call them the 5 R's because they happen to all start with R, which is super helpful to remember them by. First up, we have relationship. So restorative justice is rooted in the belief that relationships are central to a healthy and functioning community. When harm does occur, it can disrupt the relationships between individuals, institutions, and the greater community. So restorative justice is the process that seeks to restore and strengthen these relationships. Then we have respect. So respect for everyone involved in the process is crucial to restorative justice. Each person's voice, feelings, and experiences are valid and should be heard. It is a process that fosters mutual respect between victims, those who have caused the harm, and the broader community. And then we have responsibility. So in this process, individuals are encouraged to take responsibility for their actions. This principle focuses on the idea that individuals must be held accountable for the harm they have caused and also understand the impact of their behavior on others. If they're not understanding that impact, it's hard to take responsibility. And then repair. This is probably the main focus. This is what we're looking to do. The focus is to repair the harm done rather than simply punish the individual. The goal is to help victims feel heard and respected while also providing those who have caused the harm an opportunity to make amends and restore balance to the situation. And finally, we have reintegration. So those who have caused the harm can then be seen as individuals who can reintegrate into society rather than being permanently stigmatized or isolated. Restorative justice emphasizes rehabilitation and the restoration of those who have caused harm back into contributing members of the community. So at CJA, our focus is to bring attention to the ways in which our clients can learn to take responsibility for their actions, repair the harm they have caused, and generate pro-social behaviors. And including clients in this process in designing restorative programming for their facility will help them feel more attuned to others, more reflective of their actions, and more connected and accountable to the community as a whole. And now we'll talk a little bit about our core values. As Emily mentioned, these are the core values we see all the time. We have respect, connection, empowerment, and safety. These core values guide how we interact with clients, colleagues, and the community, and are the principles that we have agreed to stand on through specific behaviors and actions every day. Alex will demonstrate a little bit now about how these core values connect with our restorative justice process.
Exactly what Emily said at the beginning. It was really important that restorative justice align with our mission and values of CJA. And Izzy just explained to you the 5 R's of restorative justice, and I'm going to walk you through how they align with our core values. So relationship and connection align together. Building and restoring relationships supports connection and fosters a sense of belonging. Respect aligns with respect and safety. Everyone's voice matters, clients, victims, and our community members. Responsibility aligns with empowerment. Rather than blame and punish, the focus is on personal growth and meaningful repair. And then taking responsibility also fosters empowerment, helping people own their actions and be part of the solution. Repair aligns with empowerment and safety. Repairing harm restores safety and gives all parties a voice, which promotes empowerment and trust. And then finally, reintegration aligns with connection and respect. Reintegration strengthens connection, honors respect for each person's potential, and promotes a healthier, more inclusive community. So now for the exciting stuff. This is how we were introduced to restorative justice. So in March of 2023, Samantha Miller, who's pictured in this slide, she came to our agency. She works with City of Fort Collins, but she also has her own LLC called Voices Heard. She came to us, and she was just really looking on any collaboration that we wanted to have with programming in our facility. And so instantly, we jumped on this opportunity, and she connected us with some very unforgettable people, and I'll explain that. We right away formed a team. We wanted to get people who are super passionate about this. And so in October of 2023, an official team was formed, and that included 6 employees from community corrections and alternative sentencing. We had a program volunteer, and then we had 3 current clients and a program graduate, all who were very excited to come on. The 3 clients actually had been trained on restorative justice circles while in, 2 of the clients, while they were in the Department of Corrections. So they had a huge knowledge base already. And all these people were so excited about participating. And in November of 2023, the initial team went through a 3-day training, and that gave us an introduction to the circle process, the values and listening exercises, how circles have been implemented at Denver County Community Corrections, specifically Project Elevate. So we have gotten a lot of our ideas and taken so much information from Project Elevate, and they're the ones who were there to speak to how their staff interact with their clients and how they brought restorative practices into their halfway house. We also got circle presentation practice, and then most notably, we were able to meet a woman named Grandmother Strong Oak, and she provided an unforgettable presentation on the indigenous roots of circle keeping. The training was put on by Elizabeth Porter Merrill. She's a public defender, and she works with the Colorado Restorative Justice Council. Lynn Lee is the chair of the Pikes Peak Restorative Justice Council. And then Cass Harris is the program director at Project Elevate. Alma DiCochia is the Project Elevate Director of Services. So all these people came together to provide this amazing training for us. And on the 3rd day, Grandmother Strong Oak, who is actually pictured in the red hat in the center of this circle, she, like I said, she's a prominent indigenous elder, and she is the executive director and co-founder of the Visioning Bear Circle, and that's Visioning Bear as in balance, equity, and respect. And she provided our team with this amazing experience. She told stories. She gave feedback on us running circles. She ran circles for us. And it just was amazing to watch her deep commitment to restorative practices and just the healing and revitalization of Indigenous traditions.
So Commissioner Shattuck McNally has a question.
Yeah, thank you. So is that Samantha Miller in the middle of that picture too, right below Strong? Yeah.
Yes.
And is she practiced, is mostly in the state of Colorado, or is it regionally, or, does she do this currently on tribal and indigenous lands?
Samantha Miller does not. Grandmother Strong Oak, the woman pictured in the red hat, she does a lot of work with that. Samantha Miller does a lot of juvenile work with the city of Fort Collins. Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm going to read one of the stories that Grandmother Strong Oak gave to us in her native dialect. So she said, the North American First Nations regarded the circle as the main symbol for understanding life's mysteries. They have observed that all of life was circular movement, which could be seen everywhere throughout nature. Man looked out on the physical world through their eyes, which are circular. The earth is round, and so is the sun, moon, and planets. The rising and setting of the sun follows a circular motion. The seasons form a circular movement. Birds build their nests in circles. Animals mark their territories in circles. In the old days, tribes lived in circular homes called teepees, and their communities were arranged with the teepees in a circle. Indeed, to the natives, the whole of life appeared to be circular.
So in April of 2024, our team was ready to roll out the concept of restorative justice practices to all of the CJA agency. This team was very mindful about how we wanted to train staff on this, and we broke things down into meetings by upper management, supervisors, leads, line staff. We went to security meetings, and we just wanted to be very intentional about and show people this is what we would like to bring to community corrections. We wanted to show them the power of a circle, and so we did, for upper management, we provided a circle example training just to show how many things we could do with this circle practice. We wanted to incorporate it into team building. We wanted to involve clients and staff at the same time. So this was just a way, instead of shooting out an email or doing an overview at a meeting or during an all-staff meeting, we just really wanted to talk to people as one-on-one as possible. And then in August of 2024, we added 3 more people to our team. And then just recently in April of 2025, we put out another letter of interest email, hoping to get 3 or 4, and we got 8 people that applied. So we added 8 more people onto our team. And so now we have representation from all units in our agency. We have AIM and Wellness Court, we have ASD, we have treatment, security, case management, our administration team, employment services, and also Summit Stone representation. So we're really excited about that. And now Brittany and Ashley are going to talk on more what our focus areas were.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk about circles, just kind of breaking down what the timeline of a circle looks like and what you could expect if you were participating in a circle. So the purpose of the circle is a discussion group. It's an alternative style to discussion, which facilitates connection and cultivates relationships. It also provides support to having a voice in decision-making. So here's a few of the guidelines that we expect of all the participants within a circle. We expect that they will stay on topic and that comments and discussion should be addressed directly to the question or issue presented by the facilitator. Now, I can say I have ran some circles where that does not always happen and things really get off the rails sometimes, and we encourage that. Of course, this is a moment for somebody to really speak what's on their mind and heart, so as long as we can direct them back, we don't want to isolate anybody from not being able to say what they're feeling at that moment. So only one person speaks at a time. Everyone will listen to that person respectfully. Everyone will have an opportunity to speak. And volunteerism is a guiding principle of restorative justice. No one is forced to speak. So when it comes to their turn to speak, they can also choose to pass on the opportunity to speak. And in some instances, passing on a question is also an appropriate answer, and that's fine. The circle will be facilitated by individuals who are trained in restorative practices, and we'll keep the group focused as much as we can and positive, and then provide the prompts of direction that we're going to be speaking, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more later as well. 5 to 15 people is really the ideal size of a circle. With smaller groups, everyone has a chance to speak, with respect to time, of course, and meeting each question level as planned by the facilitator. So when we get into it, when we get to a circle, especially if it's a circle where we know there's participants who have never done a circle before, we always want to invite everybody to say thank you for attending our circle. We really appreciate you being here. And then we say, hey, today's circle is going to be about whatever it may be. In this example we chose, what community means to me. So then we're going to cover logistics. We're going to say, hey, anytime that you need to get up and leave the circle, if you need to use the restroom, here and here are the restrooms. If you'd like to get a glass of water, answer your phone, get something to eat, and return to the circle, you're welcome to do that. And then we can kind of get started on our mission. So we always like to start with an opening reading, which really sets the tone for the emotion of the circle. In this case, with the theme being what community means to me, we chose a Coretta Scott King quote that says, "The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members." So I like that that kind of sets the tone for what we're going to be talking about in that particular circle. So then we describe the makeup of the circle. We say we sit in a circle so that we can all see each other in an unobstructed way. We can fully engage with one another. There's a clear focus at the center of the circle, and there is equal participation in the process for all. No one is at the head of the circle. Everyone participating is on equal ground, which I think really means a lot, especially in a situation where there might be a power differential like staff and clients. That really is powerful to our clients, and we have some evidence on quotes from the clients that we'll share with you later. Everyone is invited into the circle to participate on equal footing, like I said, and all the perspectives are welcomed. So we have a talking piece. That usually is like a shell, or we have like a little rain stick that makes a beautiful sound, and we're going to pass that around to everybody in the circle when it's their turn to talk. So if you have the talking piece, you have the floor, and everyone else is going to respect that that person has the floor without interruption. In the center of our circles, which you'll see some photographs later, we have a beautiful tapestry that we laid down, and we explain that the centerpiece is intended to create a focal point which invites full presence in the conversation, as well as, and I think it's really important, that it provides an alternative to eye contact for participants to be vulnerable. If making that eye contact with the person directly across from you feels a little uncomfy, you can direct your gaze to the center of the circle, and you're welcome to cast your gaze at the centerpiece if that feels more comfortable to you. Next, we're going to have a mindfulness moment, and everybody loves the mindfulness moment. What we're going to do there is we're going to do like a guided kind of breathing exercise, or a body integration, or maybe read a beautiful piece of poetry, deep breathing, and that's really going to just facilitate relaxation, comfortability, and kind of getting in the mood to be vulnerable by removing distractions and mental blocks. Then we're going to talk about the values and guidelines, and I think this is a very important piece to each circle. The values and guidelines establishes the group values, and the group, of course, being everyone participating in the circle. The group values allows each person to identify what they need to feel safe while sharing in the circle. What we do is we pass around note cards, and we just invite everybody, write down one value to you that you need to be able to share freely in the circle. And a lot of times we get answers like confidentiality, honesty, sympathy, open-mindedness, humor. We get that one a lot. And I think it's really interesting to note that when we do this circle and we pass around these note cards, whether it's to upper management staff at CJA or the clients or any combination of the two, a lot of times there's repeats on those values, and you see the same values repeated circle after circle. And I just think that that really speaks to the notion that we all have the same wishes for being vulnerable with one another, and I think that's really, really beautiful. So after the preparation of the circle, so to speak, is acknowledged, we're able to move into the guiding questions, which is the circle in itself, and then the closing of the circle. And Amanda is going to explain those two things a little bit more closely.
Thank you. So yeah, on the screen you can see the different questions and how we would flow through the circle. Restorative justice circles often use a progression of questions to help participants connect, reflect, and build deeper understanding within a community. The process typically begins with an opener question, such as, what's one place in your community that brings you joy? This helps participants feel comfortable and establish a sense of shared space. Level 1 questions like, what's your favorite local event or tradition in your community, encourages participants to share positive personal experiences that highlight cultural or communal values. Moving deeper, level 2 prompts, such as, can you share a time when you felt a strong sense of belonging in a community and what made that possible, invite reflection on emotional experiences and connection. Finally, level 3 questions like, what do you think your community needs more of to truly thrive, and what role might you play in that? Challenge participants to think critically and take ownership of their role in the collective growth. Each level builds on the previous, creating trust, empathy, and a stronger sense of community. So these are some questions that we would ask you if we were running a circle with you guys today. And then next slide, please. So then we'll move to the closing question. In restorative justice circles, the closing question and closing ritual play a vital role in honoring the shared experience and reinforcing the connection built during the circle. A typical closing question such as, what's one thing you're taking with you from this circle that you want to carry into your work or community, encourages participants to reflect on their learning, insights, or emotional growth. It serves as a moment of personal commitment and collective affirmation. Following the discussion, a closing ritual like ringing a bell, sounding a drum, or reading a meaningful quote symbolizes the formal end of the circle. Excuse me. For example, the quote, when we listen and celebrate what is both common and different, we become a wiser, more inclusive, and better community. By Patricia Stone. This reinforces the values of empathy, unity, and growth. Together, these closing elements provide a thoughtful, respectful conclusion that acknowledges the journey and inspires continued action beyond the circle. So then next, as you can see on the screen, that is the tapestry that Brittany was mentioning earlier. And these are some topics that we might have with clients. So restorative justice circles are impactful for clients in our community justice program because they encourage personal accountability, empathy, and connection with one another. We focus our circles on topics that have come up within the facility or topics that have been requested by clients. Some examples of topics we have used in the past are healthy communication and collaboration, connection, healthy relationships, loving yourself through challenges, and respect. An example of some questions that we might ask for a respect circle would be, in your own words, define respect. How do you like to be shown respect? Give an example of a time you were disrespected and describe how it made you feel. Lastly, how would you like to be shown respect at community corrections? Restorative justice circles help clients connect and hold each other accountable by creating a respectful, supportive environment where open dialogue is encouraged. In these circles, everyone, including clients and facilitators, share personal experiences, listens actively, and reflects together. Clients build trust as they hear others facing similar struggles and recognize that they are not alone. This shared vulnerability creates a sense of community and responsibility. When someone falls short or avoids taking responsibility, others in the circle can challenge themselves in a constructive way, promoting honesty and growth. Through this process, participants learn to support one another while upholding shared values, and commitments. Perfect. So on the screen, you can see an actual staff circle. Two of our restorative justice members ran a circle with our women's treatment team for team building. So that's kind of an example of what it may look like in real life. At first, we held circles for management and staff to get an understanding of what circles are and how they are impactful to our clients. Our goal was for Sorry, I heard her and I thought she was talking. Our goal was for staff to be on board and recognize the potential benefits of circles. However, it has started to become a positive way of communicating with each other when a team might need it, or for general team building, as you can see in the photo. Some topics we have had with staff are communication, taking feedback and responsibility, support and empowerment, sustaining ourselves when the work is difficult, and spring forward. We recently had a circle with the AIM and Wellness team down the street. They had a bunch of new team members join, and so they wanted to hold a circle about communication so that they could learn better about how to communicate with each other. The circle consisted of AIM management, Summit Stone management, and probation. Some of these individuals are new, as I said, so it was important for them to sit down and have a circle based on communication. This allowed them to get to know each other better and talk about how they can best communicate with each other moving forward. Restorative justice circles are impactful for staff working together in a community corrections program because they strengthen team connection, improve communication, and reduce overall burnout. These circles provide a space for staff to share their experiences, voice concerns, and reflect on the emotional toll of their work in a supportive, non-judgmental setting. By promoting active listening and mutual respect, circles help build trust among team members, leading to better collaboration and problem solving. They also create opportunities for staff to reconnect with the values behind their work, address workplace challenges constructively, and support each other's well-being, ultimately improving morale and program effectiveness.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashley. And I will be talking about another thing that we incorporated into community justice alternatives. So first, Alex mentioned that we got a lot of ideas from the Halfway House and Down in Denver Project Elevate regarding how we can apply restorative justice into our programs. And one of the ways that they currently do it is by applying it to administrative review. Now, let me give you a little bit of background of what administrative review is. So, administrative review is, or AR, is a process that applies to clients at community corrections, and it's the governing body of our agency, community corrections. The AR panel reviews and determines if a client is safe to remain in a program or will be terminated based on a high-risk violation. So, Project Elevate, like I said, they actually run a circle for their AR process. Now, when we were looking into our program and what fits, right now that's not completely doable, right? Sometimes we have AR lists that's really long, and so in order for us to be efficient, we really wanted to break down what works for our agency. And so for our thought process, we really thought about, we wanted to facilitate conversations with our clients about their behavior and have the focus on that and not have the focus on the negative. So we wanted this to be we wanted to create a space where clients are feeling safe to ask for support, to feel that they have the support there, feel connected, feel aligned with our values. So I kind of went backwards. I apologize about that. So we first asked ourselves what the goal of our AR is right now. Our A culture has always been something that was seen as a negative thing, and while termination is always a serious thing and a client's placement is always serious, we also believe that facilitating conversations with clients about their behavior shouldn't be something that is brushed over. We want everything, we want the full picture of a client's program. So after identifying the goal of AR, we asked ourselves the following questions. Alex earlier went down comparing our 5 R's with our values and align them together. That's exactly what we did. We sat down and said, okay, what are we already doing now? What can we improve on to bring into our processes? After this, we asked, how are we preparing clients for AR? Are we all giving the same information to our clients? Are we missing something? And are we including all of our clients? So sometimes we do get clients that are placed into custody for safety reasons, and while they're waiting for AR, they'll stay in custody, right? And so we wanted to make sure that they were also included because their voice also matters. We then looked at how are we impacting others with AR. So yes, we're having these great conversations with clients. Are we following through with the action plans that we are setting with our clients, or are we just leaving the conversation there and then a week later having a client come back to AR and be reviewed because the same behavior continued? And then finally, we wanted to see how our clients are giving back to themselves, the community, and the victims. So then, after this thought process, we got into our areas of focus. And these are the following areas that we feel needed the most focus. So, for our AR chair responsibilities and script. So the AR chair is the person that runs the entire AR. They're the ones who set the tone for AR essentially. And so we really wanted clients to feel that AR was not a place of confrontation. It was instead a place of conversation, right? So let's discuss what's going on. Let's discuss why you're here. Let's discuss what we need to do next. And so for the script, we really changed how we explained the AR process to our clients. We changed the seating arrangement. So in our current AR room, it's funny that we're in this room because this kind of resembles it. So we have a table that looks similar to this one. And so before we used to have 4 staff members sitting in one side of the table, and on the other table we had our client and our case manager or therapist. Now we changed it to where everyone can sit wherever, because we want to create a space where clients feel invited and they do not feel like it's a them versus us, because that's not what it is. We are there trying to help them we're there trying to help clients feel supported and empowered so that we can change behavior, right? And that hopefully we can help with recidivism. So besides that, we also changed the wording on how we explain things and how we introduced ourselves. So we used to introduce ourselves as, hi, my name's Ashley, I'm a case manager, we had a title behind it, and so now we took out the title so that, again, clients can feel that we are all in that same space, same level. There's no power dynamic there or anything like that. And then for our case manager presentation, we also wanted to add space for case managers to provide a personalized description of their client. So before, the questions that we were asked were very direct, what's the IR? What's the write-up? I'm sorry. How long have they been here? When is their sentence completion? Just very basic information that didn't really give a full picture of the client. And so now with our new form, we really wanted to incorporate mental health. Are they struggling with mental health? Has this been an issue for them? Are they on mental health medications? Is that an issue for them? Or is it more, wow, they have a lot of trauma because they've been through a lot? Okay. And so we really just wanted to give a full picture of the client so that when case managers are presenting the client to this board, that sometimes they don't really know them, but sometimes they do, they get the full picture of why a client may be struggling. And it also sets the tone for the panel to ask questions. They can use examples of what the case manager has presented to facilitate that conversation. And then I mentioned in the last slide, so we wanted to talk about the harm that is caused to the client, the community, and to themselves with this behavior. And so the case managers in this new form are also asked the same question, where they reflect on what was the harm caused by your client? Was it low, medium, or high? And then explain if it's high, right? So that the panel can also see the case manager's perspective of things, and the case manager can see it for themselves as well. A big thing that we wanted to add too was a moment in that form where case managers can highlight the good in the client. So yes, a client will be reviewed in AR. That doesn't mean that their whole program has been negative. That doesn't mean that they haven't been doing anything good at all, right? Sometimes they have built stability, but they're struggling a little bit to identify one specific thing that they're struggling with. So we thought it was really important for case managers to highlight this, so that they, for one, can remember, oh my God, this client has done this. I can empower them and remind them about this, right? Or the panel can also see, okay, let's try to get to the details of what's really going on. For our client presentation, we wanted to change the question so that they can be more restorative and less retributive. I apologize. We changed our language to be at a 5th grade level so clients can understand the questions and are able to actually answer them. So our old form used to have the term responsivity factor. And what we learned is that most clients don't know what this means. They would just be like, okay. So they would kind of brush over the question in AR. And so we really wanted to rephrase how we asked that. And instead, we changed it to what things outside of this specific issue contributed to this behavior. And we have found that so far clients are able to answer that and say, okay, yeah, I have more going on besides just this. And then just like the case management form, we give space for clients to take accountability for the harm that they have caused for themselves, others, and the community. Our biggest thing is we don't want to take away that space for clients to feel like they can't take accountability or that it's brushed over. We want them to acknowledge what led them to AR, that behavior, and reflect on how their actions really affect more than just themselves. And then as well, just like in the case management form, we wanted to incorporate the positives in the client's life, such as what they're most proud of, what are they gaining from the program, and moving forward, what support would they need. A big piece of our new AR process was to incorporate a support person for the client as well. So a support person can be a staff member, a mentor, a peer coach, treatment provider, or a parole probation officer. So the role of a support person is not to sway the panel in any way or to vote in the client's placement. They're just there to simply support the client. AR can be a scary thing, and for a lot of clients, normally the first time that they're going to the AR, they are really scared and nervous, and sometimes they feel like they're alone even if there's people in the room with them, right? So we wanted to give additional space for them to feel that they are supported, and besides their case manager and the staff members, they do have someone else there that can help empower them. The support person can also be with them after AR while they're waiting for results. We see and we've heard from Project Elevate that when clients are finding out that they're about to be terminated, having that extra support there besides a case manager is really helpful for them. So we really wanted to add that to our process. We also wanted to add or change the way that we communicated the outcome to our clients. So years ago, it used to be where not every client would be informed of the outcome, right? They would be informed as they were being placed in custody, and then they would have so many questions. And so now, in order for us to, we feel that the client will feel, I think, will be more receptive of the outcome if we actually communicate that with you. And it could be something simple as, hey, you've been terminated from the program. Your next steps are going to be going into custody, and then so on and so on. We found that when we actually speak to our clients about what's happening with their program and the next steps, they're easier to put into custody sometimes because they're not as defensive, they know. And so we wanted to really emphasize that so that we, again, are making sure that our staff are safe and our clients are safe and that we're overall providing support. Alex will now go on and mention a little bit about that safety aspect with our AR process.
I'll just ask a quick question here. So you use this circle method and this method in both the AR and in other circumstances too? So you're just, so there's a couple ways you're using it. And you said you can't always use it in this system, but you try to bring elements of that into the AR system too? Okay, thank you.
So I mentioned before that it was very important to us to go around to the team and explain in person what we are doing. A lot of that feedback, because this is a new process, was met with just some reassurance that this was going to keep our staff safe and our clients safe. So actually our director, Alexis Ongley, brought in Tim Fox, who is the Larimer County Security Manager, and he did a complete rundown of our custody process. He looked at where we put people in custody. Is that safe? Is it the best? Do clients feel blocked in? Do we need to put our facility on lockdown? We took him through the entire thing. We made sure that we had specific places where every single time, this is where a male is going to be put into custody, this is where a female is going to be put into custody, and this is how it's going to look, this is how it's going to keep our staff safe, this is going to keep the client the most de-escalated. And so that made our staff feel very safe knowing that somebody had reviewed the process, because we were introducing a case manager going out and telling their client that they were being terminated from the program. We were saying a support person could come and wait for them. So we wanted the entire process to be approved and known that this is the safest thing for our staff.
Thanks, Alex. So next, we will be moving on to our client testimonials. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to read them. I want you to pay particular attention to the last quote on there, and then I'll share a little backstory to go with that one. So this quote was written by one of my clients, Faith. Faith received a write-up for stealing a vape from another peer. She wasn't reviewed in AR due to various factors, but I thought it would be impactful to have her write a letter to the peer that she stole the vape from. The letter had her reflect on the harm that she caused to herself, her peer, and the community. After writing this letter, she shared this in front of her peer, and they were able to make amends. This is just one glimpse of what we really want to do with our clients moving forward and how we can incorporate action plans into administrative review. This was a success story for her, right? She talks about this every day. She talks about the impact. Now, moving forward, this is where we want to go. We know that we have a long way coming, but it's one of our biggest goals with restorative justice and AR and action plans. We think that when clients actually reflect on the behavior and have these special moments with the victim of, hey, I did this, I'm sorry, I know the harm that this has caused, there's a bigger impact there than having a client just wipe off tables for a chore hour, right? And so this is one of our goals, and we hope that just as Faith has been impacted, we hope that other clients also feel impacted by this, because it is just one small step. And then we also got a quote for one of our staff members. So Misty Perry, our clinical director, she has had a lot of exposure to team circles and AR, and she shared the following quote. So my experience has been really positive. It allows staff to talk about a common theme in an open and non-judgmental environment. By bringing restorative justice practices into AR, it has brought a more human approach to an already stressful situation. So this also just shows how our staff are also seeing the impact of restorative justice in our program. And like I said earlier, I hope that this impact keeps growing as we move forward.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about where we've come from and how we got restorative justice to CGA. I want to talk a little bit about where we're going and some of our goals for the future. The first one, as we've talked about with the circles, we've been doing those at community corrections and also with staff at AIM and treatment, and we're working on case management. So now we're going to be expanding those circles also to the alternative sentencing department and having those for clients and staff there as well. And then as Ashley talked about with those action plans, that's something we really want to get implemented. One of our big things with AR was making sure that we're giving the client the space to address the harm that they've caused and also empower them to make more pro-social choices in the future. So these action plans are going to be very helpful in keeping them accountable. One example could be if they're going to AR for continued substance use and they're receiving high violations for that. Ensuring, a lot of times we'll have clients say, yes, I'll go to treatment and I'll apologize to my family because I know it was hard for them to see me like this, but we don't get that follow-up. So having those action plans of, yes, you're going to treatment. Yes, you wrote a letter to your family, or maybe you talked to this specific staff member that you interacted with when you were under the influence of drugs. So just making sure that we're really seeing that harm being addressed and they're being empowered to make those choices. We're also looking at, so there are violations that occur that don't send someone to AR. They're not a high enough risk to be sent to AR, but we still want to make sure those things are being addressed because otherwise we're not getting that change in behavior, and then someone will eventually go to AR. So we're looking to do circles for that. That is one avenue that we're looking at to address it. So a lot of times we'll see trends like an increase in substance use with clients. We'll see more write-ups for that, or we'll see an increase in unauthorized time. So something that we would do is hold a circle with that as the topic. And we would have clients that have been receiving those write-ups go to those circles and participate so that hopefully they can get back on the right track and avoid having to go to AR. And then also just like smaller like violations, maybe a really poor interaction with a staff member where they were disrespectful, coming back to that staff member later, similar to how Ashley's client did with the vape, of writing that letter, apologizing, addressing that harm, and repairing that relationship. So those are kind of the things that we're looking for specifically for AR. We also, in the room that we conduct AR, which kind of looks similar to this, there's more color in here. We're looking to add a mural that some of the clients are going to do that has a restorative justice theme, just to make the room a little bit more inviting and not feel, right now the walls are completely white, and so it can feel a little scary. So just to open up that conversation and make it feel a little more approachable. And then we're also going to be implementing a client accomplishment wall. This is really just going to be celebrating the clients and each of the things that they do every day. Because I think we can get lost in like the punitive and the AR and the violations. And this is really just highlighting like some clients found a job today. We have a client that just took the bus for the first time today in 20 years. There are these small accomplishments that deserve to be celebrated. So we're looking to do that. Then as Alex mentioned, we have recently added 8 more staff members to our group. And so now we have representation all across. And with those new staff members, we now have the chance to split into subcommittees so that we can address each thing that we're looking for with a little bit more attention. And then we'll be expanding circles again to other staff. So this is more from the client perspective, but I'll briefly just get into the staff perspective on the next slide. So we'll be expanding these circles to all different teams in CJA, management, frontline staff. This will really just help spread awareness of restorative justice and give that direct experience. Until you're in a circle, it's difficult to understand the impact that it can have on you. But even day one in training, when I was in a circle for the first time, it really changed everything for me. So that direct experience will empower staff to be able to look through the restorative justice lens in each of their everyday interactions. So those are some of our hopes for the future.
And the one thing that I would mention as they were preparing for this, I've learned a ton, and they're doing just absolutely incredible work. But I think the biggest thing that resonated when Ashley was talking about, you know, I can have someone mop a floor, or I can have someone clean the kitchen, but actually sitting down and discussing the actions that they had and why they did what they did, and the harm that they may not even have recognized that came from it, I think is far more meaningful than the chore hours that they're given. On the same note, it's hard when we all have to work together every single day. And so just staff interaction with one another, and understanding having difficult conversations, or, you know, mixing teams that have never been together, having those circles is a really good, empowering thing to have. So we're really excited as this expands throughout CJA. And I know because the team is big that maybe other departments are going to ask them to come do team building for them, just hire them out a little bit. But I'm really proud of the work that they've done. And I think when you look at what we do, absolutely, we are about accountability and making sure our community is safe. But part of that is making sure that the folks that are under our supervision have access to this so that they can realize what that does for their own lives, and that when they go out in the community, they're safe to be out in the community and more productive for their own families. So I think it's a credible asset that they've come. So thank you all for all of that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Thank you all for being here today. Certainly, it's great to hear your stories, and it's really heartening to hear about the passion and drive that you all feel about this work. It's so important, and it's really exciting to see this wonderful team that so believes in this work. You know, I know I've experienced this by just as being part of some of the leadership team in school districts where they were doing this with students, right? And they asked some of the parents to come participate, because sometimes when other parents see it, then, you know, it helps kind of like, oh no, this is a good thing. And I'm curious about, you know, you have your old system or the system of the AR and other things that you're doing, and you're implementing this and doing it differently, how are you, we always need data to kind of inform decision-making and how is this working or not. How do you measure this and how do you show the impact, or how do you measure whether this is reducing conflicts or helping with folks maybe progressing through the program more, I wouldn't say more successfully, but with a different trajectory or impacting the outcomes afterwards? What does that look like, and how do you measure something like this?
I can attempt to answer that. I would say exactly what Izzy said. Now that we have this bigger team, we are so excited to have more time to be able to devote to things like that. For example, in our management meeting, we are looking at our AR process individually. And so during that time, we can start pulling statistics of, since we've implemented this process, have we seen less terminations from the program? But we have been doing this, since 2023, 2024. And so I think that we have the opportunity to get whatever stats we want on this information, or with this information, and with the circles, with the amount of write-ups that we see that people are getting in our programs. There's multiple things that we can measure.
And one other thing before Alexis speaks, an example with the AR process and when someone is going to be terminated and they're now in a specific area and they have their support and they understand exactly the next steps, we've had far fewer people run away prior to the result of that AR. And I think that goes to, if you have that understanding, if you're telling them, you're following through with your actions, but you're giving them the roadmap of what's going to happen next, they're calmer, that de-escalation happens, or never happens to begin with. And I think we've seen that as a success.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. No, that's great. That's really great. I'm glad that it's that part's showing through. Because anecdotally, we were having so many terminations that were we had to terminate people due to running before the hearing, as opposed to really looking at the behavior and then making a decision, which is a terrible termination to have, right? When you have somebody that you could have had an intervention with, but the stress of the possibility of termination was too great, right? So anecdotally speaking, we've already seen a huge turnaround in that piece, which to me is already a win. And then, we'll absolutely track some more. So thanks for bringing that up, Emily. Yeah, that's exactly where my head was at.
Did you want to have Alexis identify herself for the?
I'm sure. Can you introduce yourself?
My apologies.
And your new title?
Alexis Ongley, Director of Community Corrections.
Thank you.
I think too, just the opinion of the clients and client quotes, like what we had up there, is a pretty big directive of satisfaction among the clients. And we have a lot of clients who have been in the AR process previous to implementing restorative practice and then have experienced that now, and just being able to speak to them about how it makes them feel is, to me, beyond numbers, just like a huge indicator that we're moving in the right direction as far as dignity and respect for our clients is concerned.
Any
Yeah, and I think that's really important, and you're right, you can't measure that, and that's, I like how you talked about dignity and respect for clients, and that's really important, and I think telling that story is huge. But also with policymakers and stuff, we sometimes need data-informed decisions to be able to say, because we'll get questions and things like, why, does this work? How are you, so I think you're right. And I think it's also great to have some of these, since it's just starting to have this to kind of, for folks who maybe they don't value the dignity and respect for things in this kind of area. There's just some other folks who still believe in that more punitive kind of mindset. And so I think this is why it's a yes with these stories and this too, because I think, I really like the whole mindset of treating them all as humans and making everyone on the same level, that it is that dignity, and I think that's really powerful, but that's also something hard to measure. So I appreciate your comments very much.
Brenda, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think for the vast listening audience, what I hear you say is this is a more respectful and reciprocal way of dealing with clients, but it doesn't eliminate the accountability you hold them to for them to leave the program and work the program. And so I hope that folks hear that. This is a different way of approaching accountability, a more human, respectful way, but it doesn't change that accountability, because I know that's a very high value for you all as well. This is not an easier path, it's just a more respectful path so that everyone understands what the expectation and outcome would be.
And I would echo that. When you're talking about an AR process, when someone's coming in front of you and they have a behavior that requires them to go back to the Department of Corrections, the outcome may be the exact same, but the process in which we get to there is just a different way of approaching it, a way of humanizing it. It doesn't negate what they did, and it still has them going forward with our termination if that's the appropriate thing for our community and for the behavior that they have.
And I think that's important for victims to understand. It's not a pass. It's just a different way of communicating while still maintaining that accountability for the thing that got them there in the first place or in front of the AR team.
Thank you. So my question is, so you all have hard jobs and a lot of things to do, and we know this, and I appreciate you being here today. So why is this important for you personally and in your work to do this extra work, to have learned this, to train people, and why are other people so excited to join you? What do you think that I mean, if you're comfortable speaking to that, I just I can definitely tell that you're passionate about this and you care about this because you presented everything so well and so beautifully. But what makes you want to keep doing this work?
I think for me, in my experience with community corrections and for the past 8 years, I've worked in the evaluations unit, which is how we screen people for placement in community corrections, and getting to know someone. And Ashley kind of touched on this when we were talking about what we want to hear from that client. It's like some client may come to AR for substance use, but we know that this, and this happened to get them here. It's not just they used. Like, there is a reason behind it, and community corrections is a hard program to get through, and the consequence is prison. So if we can do everything we can with that client while we have them to not get them to prison, because more than likely they're going to come back, like, that intervention piece of it is what is very beneficial to me. And if we can give this client everything we can while they're here and do it the right way, and exactly what Emily said, wiping down a table is not the same as going and having owning what you did and apologizing to that person. That's hard for us in our real life to do. And so it's just really cool to see that growth from somebody. And any chance I get with client interaction, that's what I love. So.
Anybody else want to? You don't have to answer that question. Okay.
For sure. So I was actually at ASD when I first did the training for restorative justice, and I'm just going to be honest with you, I was just wrapping up my undergraduate, and I was looking for a collateral, and I was in a similar class at the time, and I was like, oh, this sounds perfect. I can double dip and learn a little bit at work and learn a little bit at school, and they can be mutually beneficial. And then I took the training, and for me, circles, I really just fell in love with that process, and that changed everything for me. It was then that I decided I'm going to leave ASD and I'm going to go work for community corrections because I want to be in a more progressive program that aligns with my values as a human in a correctional facility as staff, and then participating in circles with clients. Unless you have had that experience and felt that connection with somebody that's there as a client, it's just so powerful. And I think that feeling, we can all here at this table say that is just something so special that really drives all of our motivations and all of our passions. It's just something about circles is just so incredible that you can't help but really fall in love with the practice.
That's awesome. I feel like I have goosebumps now. Keep going.
Okay. I'm kind of similar with Brittany. In school, I learned and read books about restorative justice, and I was like, this is cool. And then I got the email, and I was like, here? We're going to do it here? And so I was like, you know what? I'll try it out. It'll be fun. And yeah, the training was just, it was long, it was tough, but it was very like worth it. And I think the connection aspect for me, connecting with my peers, connecting with clients, it's so important because I think for our clients, they can see, oh, I am human. Oh, I do deserve connection. Oh, just seeing how their mindset changes even throughout the hour-long circle is so cool. So for me, I think because we can experience it and we talk so highly about it, other people are like, oh, okay, this is not what I thought it was. I want to be involved in this. And yeah, it fills my cup. I might be having a really busy day and I can sit down and connect with these people and hear their stories and hear where they're at. And I'm like, we got this. We can do it. We can keep moving forward. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to add to that. So for me, I think my biggest passion with restorative justice and the work that I do right now, I've had several family members be terminated from community corrections or just be sent to prison. And so when I work with clients, I picture the impact that that had on my family, on me, on my sisters, on everyone. I'm like, okay, so sentencing someone or getting terminated from a program and going straight to DOC didn't repair any of that harm that they caused to us. Especially for me, like the impact that his crimes had on us directly, I feel like that was never resolved, right? It was just, you're going to DOC, boom, done, that's it. And then you move on from that, right? And so for me, I think working with my clients, I'm able to give them what I wasn't able to get as a victim, right? Or what my family was able to get. And for me, that's where I get that drive. I'm like, I'm making an impact on someone's life. They're repairing that harm that not everyone gets. And so for me, that's the passion, right? It's seeing the little things in their lives change and seeing how one little circle can really impact them and they leave there saying, oh my God, I feel so much better. Oh, I feel empowered to be able to have this conversation now with this person that I've been avoiding. And so for me, it goes more deeper than just the connection, right? It's the direct experience that for me, I get influenced by, okay, I'm making an impact on their lives, and that goes a long way, I think.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Commissioner, did anybody else want to go first? Yeah. Do you mind if we just let them all go?
So I didn't know a lot about restorative justice. My first experience was with Alex. Actually, I was helping with the mentor program for the men at community corrections, and we sat down and did a circle with her. And it was like everything like changed, everything like fell into place because that is always the way that I've interacted with clients and spoken to clients. And for me, like I love those conversations of just trying to get someone to see, you know, what piece did you play in this? What do you need from me to like help you get to where you need to be? And so just having that all in a process that was already there and something that I'd already been operating on was incredible. And I came with the mentors and we sat in a circle, and I don't think any of them had experience with it before. Most of them were pretty resistant to it at first, kind of joking and kind of embarrassing to me. I was like, be good for this. But then I saw some of them that hadn't had like a lot of opportunity to share and talk about themselves, and people that were more jokey and didn't really get super serious. I saw a lot of emotional depth and just connection in that small circle. That was even just like an introductory circle that I knew I had to be involved with that. And so it just all kind of came together, and it's something that I think like as we do more with it and just see where it expands, we're just seeing how many different situations we can put it forth towards, and it's just been incredible. And I think the sky's really the limit. There's so much we can do with this. So it's just great to see and great to work with everyone who's passionate about it.
That was awesome. Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Yeah, that was really powerful to listen to. And again, I look at this whole special team and think about this is very unique and special, and very fortunate to have this here. I'm curious, your clients, they move on, and that connection is with you all in this program and these circles. So what happens once they're moving on to their areas? Are you able to keep them connected to their community, or how do you help them find that connection in that circle, or how do they take that out? Because they can go out and move on and try to move forward in their lives, but if they don't have those connections, it's not like a one and done, right? It's a continuing staying connected. So I'm curious, where's the warm handoff, or is there, and what does that look like?
I'll just really quickly, there's a couple different routes that we can take with this, and we still involve, we have clients who move from our residential program into our non-residential program where they're not living with us anymore, but they're still being supervised. And so our goal is to create circles for people who may still need that connection, but they're not living in the halfway house, so they're invited back. Project Elevate is who everyone who joins this team gets the same exact training as we did. Project Elevate has been so amazing about involving our staff and leaving space to get 3 or 4 staff trained at a time, and that includes clients too. They want to train staff plus clients, and so our next training in mid-June, we're going to train 2 peer support clients, or 2 peer support coaches, so they can take that with them out into the community. And then, like, we are learning, people in the Department of Corrections are being trained on circles. We have clients who we showed in the picture that were trained first time around, they actually would run circles in their room if it wasn't cleaned, if people weren't pulling their weight and doing their chores. They sat everyone down and ran a circle on hygiene and stuff. So they're taking those skills and then showing. Yeah.
And then I would just say the nature of what we do at CJA is looking towards that reintegration and that connection. So from the moment an individual steps into a CJA program, the concept is holding them accountable, but figuring out what comes next when their sentence is done. So I think every day, every staff member has that in mind of what is that resource to connect them throughout out into the community. So from our case managers to our security staff to everyone that touches the individuals that we supervise, that is the goal, and to just not serve their sentence and be done with them, but to give them that foundation so that they can build from it if they didn't have that foundation to begin with.
Thank you. I just want to add to what Emily was saying. I think something really special about community corrections in particular, and Alexis and Tim before her, is I can just say somebody who has taken over a department in a small but mighty department in community corrections, that it's so ingrained that we're building these skills with the clients so that when they go forward, they can do it for themselves. We're not just like following the guidelines so that they can be compliant with what's in our guidebook. We're giving them the skill set so that they can go out onto non-res or go out into the community as a regular community member, and they can find a job on their own independently because they've been given the resources of the Larimer County Workforce Center, or they've been given the resources of the Homeward Alliance and the Murphy Center to be able to be self-sufficient. And I think that kind of goes along with what you were saying above, just restorative circles, but just restorative across all areas of their lives so that they can just really reintegrate, like Emily was saying, in a successful way.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Commissioner Kafalas, I would give you some time to ask a question, but we only have 2 minutes, so I don't know if you have anything you'd like to say before we finish up here?
Perhaps I can do follow-up with folks afterwards, and I would like to participate, if it's appropriate, in a circle, our restorative justice circle.
Well, I just want to say thank you to all of you, and thank you for sharing, and what it means to you, because that was really moving to me to hear that. I appreciate all of you. You do extremely hard work, and I'm always proud to hear of the work that you're doing. I sort of take credit for it vicariously, but it is important, and you're changing lives, and that's remarkable. And I think if anybody wanted to do a video about how to get people, if you're ever looking to recruit for folks, I mean, what this panel had to say today would make me want to do this work, because it is extremely important, and it is life-changing. So kudos to all of you for doing that. Thank you for sharing your work. Thank you for being willing to take on something like this, which is so thoughtful and which is really kind of digging a little deeper than we sometimes do, right? It's sort of getting at, what motivates us, why we do things we do, and how do we make amends when we do badly. And, we can all learn from that, obviously. So, Lorinda, is there anything you wanted to say to close us out?
I think Alex started this by saying this is in addition to the hard work you already do, all of this training, the way that you lead the circles. So thank you for taking it on and for inspiring others. I do hope you take a clip from what you all said, because it makes me want to sit in a circle with you and a client and see exactly how it works. I think maybe this is something the Community Corrections Board might want to take a look at and experience themselves, because it really is very powerful, and it isn't just going through the motions and checking boxes. It is really working to get to the heart of behavior so that they don't come back and we don't see them again, because they have successful lives. Thank you.
Great, thank you, well said. Well, with that, we'll let you get back to your jobs, which obviously are really important. So it's 3:01 and we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.